The station on Virelia was alive with motion. Ships from dozens of species floated in the orbital docks, each gleaming differently under the soft glow of the artificial sun. Some were sleek, made for speed. Others were enormous, heavy with armor and weapons. Humans, still a young addition to the interstellar alliance, were rare here. And their presence drew curiosity and, in some cases, ridicule. Commander Leora Vess walked through the bustling corridors of the central station, her posture perfect, her steps measured. Her reputation as the most skilled fighter in the Xylar Dominion had preceded her. Every movement she made was sharp, precise, almost rehearsed. Aliens of all shapes and sizes paused to watch her pass, some in awe, others in envy. She was the pride of her species, and she knew it. The humans, however, were different. They had no ancient combat traditions, no centuries of martial training. Yet, somehow, they had begun to make a name for themselves in the Alliance. Many aliens considered them weak, fragile, and untested. Leora, for one, had never paid much attention to humans beyond noting that they were unpredictable. That unpredictability, however, was about to draw her focus in a way she could never have imagined. On the main plaza of the station, an exhibition of combat skill was being held. Aliens of every species watched as fighters demonstrated their prowess with weapons, gadgets, and raw physical skill. Leora stood at the center, her opponent a hulking Xylar veteran, and within moments she dispatched him with ease. The crowd erupted in cheers. She was unmatched, untouchable, perfect in every way. Then a human starship docked nearby, catching the attention of everyone present. The ship was smaller than most, sleek and functional, with no flashy displays of weaponry. From it emerged a single human, Captain Adrian Kane. He walked calmly, his uniform simple, his gaze steady. There was nothing about him that screamed danger. Yet when he stepped into the plaza, he drew every eye. Leora noticed him immediately. She had heard rumors of human pilots, how they relied on ingenuity, how they survived situations that should have destroyed them. Still, she doubted a human could match her in combat. Most aliens laughed at the very idea. The crowd murmured as Kane approached the platform. "I hear there's a fighter here," he said, his voice clear and confident, though not loud. "I'd like to see how humans fare in a duel." The plaza fell silent. Some aliens snickered. Others whispered among themselves. Leora raised an eyebrow. The human was bold or foolish. "I am Commander Leora Vess," she said, her tone sharp, controlled. "You are aware that you face the finest warrior in the Xylar Dominion?" Kane nodded. "I am aware. I still accept the challenge," the aliens gasped. A duel between a Xylar commander and a human. It was unheard of. Many doubted the human even deserved to stand on the same platform. Leora's lips curled into a small, almost imperceptible smile. This would be interesting. The station officials cleared a special arena for the duel. The floor was a polished alloy, reinforced to withstand extreme impacts. Magnetic fields allowed for limited manipulation of weight and gravity, making the arena dynamic and unpredictable. This was meant to test skill, strategy, and endurance, not simply brute force. As they prepared, Kane observed the environment with quiet intensity. He did not brandish a weapon. He did not wear heavy armor. He relied on his instincts, his mind, and his agility. Leora, in contrast, adjusted her battle gauntlets and readied herself. Her movements were deliberate, each one signaling confidence and experience. The duel began. Leora struck first, her movements a blur to all but the trained eye. Her strikes were precise, calculated, and meant to test Kane's reflexes. The human dodged with surprising grace, using the arena's subtle gravitational shifts to his advantage. He moved unpredictably, sidestepping, ducking, and sometimes appearing to simply vanish from one location and reappear in another. The crowd was stunned. Leora had never faced an opponent who adapted so quickly. Every strike she threw, Kane responded with ingenuity. He used the environment as part of his strategy, leveraging small ledges, magnetic panels, and low-gravity zones. What the aliens considered weakness, his apparent lack of strength, became an advantage. Kane moved with creativity, exploiting Leora's expectations rather than confronting them head-on. Leora's eyes narrowed. The human was clever, but would he last? Her strikes grew faster, more complex, combining feints and calculated force. Yet Kane anticipated her moves in ways that no alien had ever done before. He was not stronger, not faster, but he was unpredictable, resilient, and resourceful. For every action Leora took, Kane found a response. When she aimed a kick to unbalance him, he used a nearby magnetic field to shift his weight and counter. When she attempted a rapid series of strikes, he anticipated the sequence and dodged, closing the distance to make her reconsider her approach. The crowd watched in disbelief. This was not a human easily defeated. This was a human who learned, adapted, and challenged one of the finest warriors in the galaxy. Minutes passed. Leora's initial confidence began to waver. She had expected a quick demonstration, a simple victory. Instead, she faced a mind that thought faster than muscle alone could manage. The human did not fight with anger or aggression. He fought with focus, calm determination, and cleverness. Every time she tried to overwhelm him, he found a way to counter, to adapt, to survive. Even the spectators began to realize that the duel was more than a contest of strength. It was a battle of wits, creativity, and adaptability. Whispers spread. Humans were underestimated, perhaps dangerously so. What they lacked in power, they made up for in ingenuity. What they lacked in training, they compensated with thinking outside the box, seeing possibilities that aliens could not imagine. Leora adjusted her tactics. She had fought thousands of opponents, yet none had forced her to rethink her approach in real time like this human. Each move she made was met with a counter that was elegant, simple, and effective. Kane did not rely on luck. He relied on perception, on understanding patterns, and using the arena itself as a weapon. The human's calmness was unsettling. In every other duel, opponents showed fear, hesitation, or arrogance. Kane had none of these. He moved with purpose, his mind racing to calculate, adapt, and anticipate. Leora realized, slowly and uncomfortably, that raw strength was not enough. She needed strategy, creativity, and patience, qualities she had assumed humans lacked. Hours could have passed in the eyes of the spectators. Leora's attacks became more refined, more precise, more desperate to break through. Kane, however, responded with equal ingenuity. Never reckless, always measuring, always adapting. He survived not because he was stronger, but because he was resourceful, observant, and unyielding. Finally, Leora paused, taking a deep breath. Sweat glistened on her forehead. Though her expression remained composed, she had not yet been defeated, but the human had endured far longer than any opponent should have. She realized something she had never considered. Humans were not fragile, not weak. Their strength was different. It was in their minds, their creativity, their ability to turn disadvantage into opportunity. Kane, still standing, observed her with quiet respect. He did not mock, he did not boast. He simply existed as proof that humans could face what others could not, adapt when circumstances demanded, and survive through cleverness, courage, and resilience. The crowd was silent now, captivated by the unusual spectacle. The duel had begun as a simple test of skill but had evolved into a demonstration of human potential. Aliens whispered among themselves, struggling to reconcile what they had assumed about humans with what they were witnessing now. Leora's eyes softened slightly. She had underestimated him. She had assumed humans were weak, limited, and predictable. Kane had shown her that they were none of these things. He was not merely surviving. He was thriving in an environment designed for elite fighters. And in that realization, Leora felt something unfamiliar. Curiosity, respect, and even admiration for a species she had once dismissed. As the duel continued, the station watched, aware that they were witnessing the beginning of something unprecedented. A human had stepped forward not to conquer, not to boast, but simply to demonstrate that strength came in many forms. Leora Vess, the legendary Xylar fighter, was about to learn a lesson that would change her understanding of humans forever. And Adrian Kane, the calm, observant human, moved through the arena with unshakable focus, showing everyone present that being human was not a disadvantage, it was an advantage in ways no one could have predicted. The duel between Commander Leora Vess and Captain Adrian Kane had already drawn the attention of everyone on Virilia Station. Spectators crowded around the arena, their eyes wide with disbelief. Leora, the pride of the Xylar Dominion, had faced thousands of opponents, yet none had tested her like this human. Kane, calm and steady, was proving that humans were not only resilient but unpredictable in ways no alien had anticipated. Leora adjusted her gauntlets and stepped lightly across the platform. She could feel the subtle vibrations of the magnetic panels beneath her boots. Every surface in the arena was a potential tool, a weapon, or a trap. She had fought on similar platforms many times. Yet the way Kane moved suggested he had a deeper understanding of the space than anyone else. He didn't just react, he anticipated. Kane crouched slightly, observing her stance. He had learned quickly that Leora relied on pattern recognition. Her attacks were fast, precise, and relentless. But they were not random. He didn't need brute strength. He only needed to predict her moves and use the arena to his advantage. Small shifts in gravity, magnetic pulses, even the reflective surfaces of the walls, all were opportunities to turn her skill against her. The first attack of the second round came without warning. Leora lunged with blinding speed, aiming a strike at Kane's midsection. He barely moved, twisting his body to the side and using the magnetic field under his boots to vault over her strike. The crowd gasped. Even the most experienced aliens had never seen a human move with such precision and awareness. Leora landed gracefully, eyes narrowing. She had expected resistance, of course, but not this level of ingenuity. Humans were clever, yes, but most relied on luck or simple improvisation. Kane's movements were deliberate, calculated, and eerily fluid. Each step, each dodge, each shift in position suggested that he was thinking 3 moves ahead. The duel became a dance. Leora's strikes were fast and continuous, yet Kane moved with a rhythm that seemed almost unnatural for a human. He used the arena itself as part of his strategy, bouncing off walls, using magnetic fields to adjust his weight mid-air, and occasionally sliding across the floor in ways that made it appear as if he were gliding. Every maneuver was designed to conserve energy while keeping Leora off balance. The aliens watching were starting to whisper nervously. What they had assumed about humans, that they were fragile, inexperienced, and predictable, was crumbling before their eyes. Kane was surviving strikes that should have incapacitated any ordinary being. He was not stronger than Leora, nor faster, but his creativity allowed him to survive. More than that, it allowed him to counterattack in unexpected ways. Leora's strikes became more complex. She combined kicks, punches, and feints with a precision that would have overwhelmed almost anyone. Yet Kane anticipated each move. When she feinted to her left, he shifted to his right and used a low-gravity panel to spring upward, landing behind her. When she tried a rapid series of strikes, he ducked and rolled, using a reflective panel to momentarily obscure her vision and force her to pause. The duel was no longer about raw combat. It had become a battle of minds. Leora had to think not just about offense, but about how Kane would respond, how he would exploit every detail of the arena. She realized that she was facing an opponent who could not be defeated by strength alone. Strategy, adaptability, and creativity were just as important, if not more so. Minutes passed, yet neither fighter showed signs of fatigue. Leora, despite her training and skill, felt the strain of keeping up with Kane's unpredictable movements. Every attack required more thought, more calculation, more energy. Kane, on the other hand, seemed to flow with the environment. He moved efficiently, using momentum and gravity to his advantage. conserving energy while keeping Leora constantly on the defensive. At one point, Leora attempted a daring move, leaping high into the air to strike from above. Kane anticipated her angle and used a magnetic panel to swing sideways, landing directly behind her. With a quick, non-violent maneuver, he unbalanced her, forcing her to take a defensive stance. The crowd erupted into murmurs of awe. A human had just turned a direct attack into an opportunity for counteraction. Leora's pride made her push harder. She was not used to being outmaneuvered, and she refused to allow a human to best her. Her strikes became faster, her combinations more intricate. Yet Kane adapted just as quickly. Every time she found a new tactic, he responded, turning her own skill into something that seemed almost playful, almost artful. The duel continued, and the aliens began to see something remarkable. Humans, they realized, did not rely on natural advantages. They were not faster, stronger, or more durable than most species. Yet they could survive and even excel through creativity, determination, and clever use of their environment. Kane embodied this truth. Every movement was calculated, every response precise, every strategy effective. Leora paused briefly, considering her options. She could not underestimate this human. If she continued with brute force, she would lose the advantage. She needed to think, adapt, and anticipate. For the first time in her career, she felt challenged not just physically but mentally. Kane had forced her into a battle of wits, and she was learning quickly that humans could be formidable opponents in ways she had never imagined. Kane, too, was learning. He studied Leora's patterns, watching for subtle cues: how she shifted her weight, how she angled her hands, how she prepared for a strike. He did not rush, he did not panic. He simply observed, calculated, and adapted. His strategy was simple in principle: survive, learn, and exploit opportunities as they appeared. Yet executing it required incredible skill, timing, and courage. The crowd was silent now, utterly captivated. No one had expected a human to endure, much less counter. A Xylar commander of Leora's caliber. Every movement was watched closely. Every dodge and strike analyzed. Aliens whispered to each other in disbelief. This human was not ordinary. This human might, in fact, be extraordinary. The duel reached a critical moment. Leora launched a series of rapid attacks, each one faster and more precise than the last. Kane, crouched low, analyzed the sequence. He saw the pattern, the rhythm of her strikes, the slight delay in her footwork, the angle of her attacks. With perfect timing, he moved, using a low-gravity panel to spring upward and evade the final strike. Then, using a magnetic field, he spun mid-air. Landing behind Leora once more, the arena fell silent. Even Leora's sharp eyes could not immediately follow his movements. Kane had used speed, environment, and ingenuity to turn a nearly impossible situation into a moment of advantage. He did not strike her violently. He simply demonstrated that he could remain in control, unshaken, and ready for whatever came next. For the first time, Leora felt a flicker of doubt. Humans, she realized, were not weak. They were adaptable, resilient, and clever in ways she had never considered. Kane's calm demeanor, his ability to read and react, and his refusal to panic had forced her to reconsider everything she believed about strength and combat. Kane moved carefully now, sensing the shift in her focus. He did not exploit it immediately. He had learned that patience was as important as action. The human's strength was not in overpowering his opponent but in enduring, learning, and finding the right moment to act. He trusted his instincts, his understanding of Leora, and his own adaptability. Leora, in turn, was fascinated. She had faced the strongest fighters of her species, each battle a test of skill, speed, and strength. Yet none had ever challenged her mind so completely. Kane was teaching her something important. Power alone was not enough. A warrior must think, anticipate, and adapt to succeed. Humans, she now realized, possessed a unique kind of strength, the strength of creativity, courage, and determination. The duel continued into the later stages, and the crowd could sense the tension building. Neither fighter had given up. Neither had faltered. And both were pushing their limits. Leora's attacks were precise and relentless, yet Kane's responses were always effective, never desperate. He survived by using his mind as much as his body, turning disadvantages into opportunities, challenges into lessons. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Kane saw a fleeting opening. Leora had grown slightly more cautious, analyzing his responses rather than focusing solely on attack. Kane exploited the environment, sliding along a magnetic panel, using a reflective surface to momentarily blind her perception, and repositioning himself with perfect timing. He was behind her before she could react. The crowd erupted in gasps. Kane had survived the impossible. Leora, breathing heavily but still composed, turned to face him. There was no anger in her eyes, no frustration, only recognition. She had underestimated humans, and Kane had proven that even a being with less raw power could match the finest warrior in the galaxy through intelligence, adaptability, and willpower. The duel had transformed from a simple test of combat skill into a testament of human potential. Kane was not merely surviving. He was demonstrating that humans were capable of achievements beyond expectation. Leora realized that she had not faced a weak opponent but a remarkable one. A human whose ingenuity and courage were equal to, if not greater than, raw strength and training. As the duel continued, both fighters were exhausted, yet neither yielded. The audience watched, riveted, understanding that they were witnessing the beginning of a new era. Humans, long underestimated, were showing that their greatest strength lay not in physical power, but in creativity, resilience, and adaptability. Kane moved with calm determination, showing the universe that humans were not to be dismissed. The arena was tense. Every spectator on Varelia Station was leaning forward, silent but fully aware that history was unfolding before them. The duel between Commander Leora Vess and Captain Adrian Kane had already exceeded all expectations. Aliens whispered among themselves, unable to believe that a human could endure against a Xylar commander, let alone challenge her skill. The air was thick with anticipation, the subtle hum of the arena's magnetic fields adding a rhythm to the moment, like the heartbeat of the battle itself. Leora wiped a bead of sweat from her brow, her breathing steady but slightly heavier than before. She had never faced an opponent like Kane. Every move she made was countered in a way that surprised her. He was not stronger or faster, yet he seemed to flow around her attacks as if the arena itself responded to his will. She knew she needed to change her approach, to think beyond physical strikes. This duel was no longer about brute skill, it was about strategy, timing, and reading her opponent. Kane, crouched and alert, observed her. His eyes tracked the subtle movements of her body, the angle of her hands, the tension in her legs. He did not rush. He had learned that patience was as important as speed, that understanding one's opponent often mattered more than force. Each move he made was deliberate, conserving energy while forcing Leora to adapt, to reconsider, to think in ways she had never needed to before. Leora lunged, faster than she had before, a blur of motion meant to overwhelm Kane in a single strike. Kane sidestepped, using the magnetic panels beneath his boots to glide effortlessly to the side. He allowed her momentum to carry her forward, then twisted, using a reflective surface to obscure her vision and slide behind her. The crowd gasped. A human had just turned a seemingly impossible strike into an advantage, demonstrating that raw power could be countered with intelligence and agility. Leora stopped, mid-step, a flicker of surprise crossing her features. She had expected a simple dodge or block. She had not expected such creativity. Her pride, usually unshakable, made her push harder. She struck again, combining a series of kicks and punches with the precision of a weapon. Kane responded calmly, predicting the pattern, moving in ways that seemed almost impossible. Every attack was met with an ingenious counter, a move that used the arena itself to his advantage. Minutes passed, and the intensity of the duel only increased. Leora's attacks became faster, more complex. Designed to test Kane's limits, he responded with equal skill, using every environmental tool at his disposal: low-gravity panels to leap higher, magnetic fields to change direction mid-air, reflective walls to momentarily blind her perception. It was a dance of skill and strategy, a battle of minds as much as bodies. The spectators began to realize something extraordinary. Kane was not simply surviving. He was learning from Leora's attacks, adapting faster than anyone could have expected. Every move he made was calculated to maintain balance, exploit openings, and create opportunities. The human's resilience was breathtaking, his ingenuity remarkable. Aliens who had dismissed humans as weak now watched with awe and a growing sense of respect. Leora's strikes grew more unpredictable. She incorporated feints, sudden shifts in speed, and deceptive angles. She had faced the best of her species, but Kane's adaptability was unlike anything she had encountered. He moved with a calm confidence that belied the difficulty of his position. He was not afraid, not reckless, not panicked. He simply reacted, adjusted, and used every tool available to survive. At one point, Leora attempted a move that combined speed and strength: a high leap with a spinning strike designed to land a decisive blow. Kane analyzed her trajectory in a fraction of a second. He used the magnetic field beneath his feet to propel himself sideways, then launched off a wall to land directly behind her. In a move both subtle and brilliant, he shifted her balance with a gentle nudge, forcing her to catch herself and reset her stance. The crowd was silent, stunned by the ingenuity of the maneuver. Kane's calm composure unnerved Leora. She realized that every strike she attempted was being anticipated, every maneuver countered. This human was teaching her something she had never learned. Power alone was insufficient. Combat was not just about skill or strength, it was about perception, adaptation, and using one's mind as effectively as one's body. Kane's strategy was simple in principle, but executed with perfect timing. Survive, learn, and exploit every opportunity. The duel continued, and exhaustion began to creep into the fighter's movements. Sweat glistened on Leora's forehead, her breathing heavier, but her eyes remained sharp. Kane, though also tired, moved with efficiency. He had learned to conserve energy, to rely on momentum and precision rather than brute force. Every step, every dodge, every counterattack was deliberate, calculated to maintain control while keeping his opponent engaged and off balance. Then came a pivotal moment. Leora, determined to end the duel, launched a rapid series of strikes, combining speed, precision, and power in a sequence meant to overwhelm Kane entirely. He crouched, analyzed the pattern, and then executed a move that stunned everyone. Using a low-gravity panel, he vaulted upward, avoiding the final strike, and then swung around a magnetic panel to land directly behind Leora. Without striking her violently, he unbalanced her, forcing her to take a defensive posture. The arena erupted in whispers and gasps. The human had turned what should have been a decisive moment for Leora into an opportunity for control. Kane's calm, calculated response demonstrated the depth of human ingenuity, resourcefulness, and courage. Leora, though unshaken in spirit, felt a flicker of doubt. She had underestimated him, and now she was learning the full extent of human potential. For the first time, Leora paused, studying Kane with a mixture of curiosity and respect. He did not act recklessly. He did not take advantage of her momentary hesitation beyond maintaining balance and readiness. He moved with discipline, observing, adapting, and preparing for whatever came next. Leora realized that humans were not fragile, not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and resilient in ways that strength alone could never match. Kane sensed the change in Leora's approach. She was no longer attacking blindly. She was observing, analyzing, and adjusting. This was precisely what he had anticipated. Patience was his ally, and he continued to move with calm precision, exploiting every opportunity the arena presented. The duel had become a test of intellect as much as skill, a battle of minds where every movement was both a question and an answer. The crowd watched, captivated, Aliens who had once laughed at the humans' challenge were now silent, realizing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Kane's endurance and adaptability were not merely impressive, they were revolutionary. He was demonstrating that humans could survive, excel, and even outthink species considered far superior in raw power and combat training. Leora launched another attack, combining speed, force, and feints in a display meant to intimidate. Kane anticipated her moves, using the arena's features to evade, redirect, and counter. He did not strike with force. Instead, he relied on timing, leverage, and observation to maintain control. Each dodge and maneuver forced Leora to adjust, to reconsider her assumptions about him and about humans in general. Finally, Kane saw the opening he had been waiting for. Leora had grown slightly cautious, analyzing his movements instead of fully committing to attack. He exploited this brief hesitation, using a combination of magnetic propulsion and momentum to position himself advantageously. With perfect timing, he forced Leora to overextend, her balance momentarily compromised. Kane did not strike violently. He simply guided her movement, demonstrating that humans could triumph through cleverness, adaptability, and precision rather than sheer force. The arena was silent. Leora straightened, breathing evenly but with a newfound respect in her eyes. Kane's performance had exceeded every expectation. He had survived strikes that should have incapacitated him, adapted to maneuvers that would have overwhelmed anyone else, and maintained his composure under pressure. He had proven that humans were capable of extraordinary feats not through natural advantages, but through ingenuity, courage, and resilience. The spectators, once skeptical, now watched with awe. Kane's movements were not just survival, they were mastery. Aliens whispered in disbelief, acknowledging that humans possessed qualities that could rival even the most elite fighters in the galaxy. The duel was no longer a simple contest. It was a revelation. Leora stepped back, her mind racing. She had underestimated humans. She had assumed they were weak, fragile, and predictable. Kane had proven that strength was not always physical, that power could be found in creativity, intelligence, and the will to adapt. For the first time, she considered the possibility that humans might not just survive, they might thrive in ways no one had anticipated. Kane, sensing the shift in her perspective, remained calm. He had not acted recklessly. He had not sought to humiliate or dominate. He had simply demonstrated what humans were capable of, relying on skill, observation, and ingenuity. His respect for his opponent was clear, and Leora could not help but feel a similar respect for him in return. The duel continued, both fighters pushing themselves to their limits. Leora's strikes were precise and relentless, yet Kane's counters remained equally effective. Every move was a lesson. Every dodge, a demonstration of human adaptability, and every response, a testament to courage and ingenuity. The audience watched in rapt attention, fully aware that they were witnessing the extraordinary capabilities of a species once considered weak. As the duel reached its climax, it became clear that Kane had not only survived, he had excelled. Leora, though unbowed, recognized that she was facing an opponent unlike any she had ever encountered. Humans were not inferior. They were remarkable, capable of turning disadvantage into opportunity, challenge into triumph. Kane had proven that being human was not a weakness, it was a strength. The duel had reached a point where every movement carried weight. Every step mattered. The spectators on Varelia Station were silent, their eyes glued to the arena. They had come to watch a demonstration of skill, expecting a quick victory by Commander Leora Vess. Instead, they were witnessing something extraordinary. A human matching the finest Sylar fighter in the galaxy, move for move, thought for thought. Leora adjusted her stance, feeling the subtle vibrations of the arena beneath her boots. Her mind raced, considering every possibility, every angle, every potential counter. She had fought countless opponents, each with their own skill and strength, yet none had forced her to rethink her approach the way Adrian Kane had. He was not merely surviving. He was learning, adapting, and even influencing her own movements. The human's mind was as sharp as her blades, as precise as her strikes, and far more creative than she had expected. Cain stood crouched, calm and alert, his eyes scanning her every move. He had anticipated this moment, the final phase of the duel. Leora was skilled, aggressive, and relentless. She would attempt to overpower him, to test his limits, and he needed to remain patient. Strength alone would not decide this duel. His adaptability, ingenuity, and timing would. He understood that every decision mattered. Every maneuver could be the difference between victory and defeat. Leora struck first. A rapid combination of kicks and punches, meant to overwhelm Cain immediately. He dodged, using the magnetic panels beneath his feet to glide sideways, avoiding the final strike with perfect timing. He countered subtly, moving to a more advantageous position without actually landing a blow, demonstrating that humans could win without raw force. The spectators murmured in astonishment. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, and Cain was proving why that had been a mistake. The arena became a blur of movement. Leora's strikes were fast, precise, and unyielding. Yet Cain responded with ingenuity at every turn. He used the low-gravity panels to launch into unexpected angles, the reflective surfaces to obscure her vision momentarily, and magnetic fields to shift direction mid-air. Every step he took was calculated, conserving energy while keeping Leora off balance. He did not attack recklessly, nor did he rely on strength alone. Every action was deliberate. Every response, thoughtful. The duel reached a critical moment when Leora attempted a high leap with a spinning strike, aimed to land a decisive blow. Cain anticipated the move, vaulted sideways, and swung around the magnetic panels to land behind her. With a precise and gentle maneuver, he unbalanced her slightly, forcing her to regain her footing. The crowd gasped. A human had taken a nearly perfect strike and turned it into an opportunity to demonstrate control without using aggression. Leora straightened, her breathing steady but her mind alert. She had faced hundreds of elite opponents, yet none had forced her to think as quickly, adapt as fluidly, or act as carefully as Cain did. She realized, reluctantly, that humans were not fragile or weak. They were resourceful, creative, and capable of thinking in ways that often surpassed raw skill. Cain's calmness and strategic mind were a testament to human potential, a strength she had not fully appreciated until now. Cain continued to move with precision, studying her patterns, observing her reactions, and remaining poised. He did not need to strike with force. He needed only to survive, adapt, and exploit openings when they presented themselves. He had learned the rhythm of her attacks, understood the environment, and used every tool available to maintain balance and control. His resilience was impressive, but it was his intelligence, observation, and creativity that truly set him apart. Leora launched another series of attacks, combining speed, force, and deception in a way designed to overwhelm him. Cain anticipated each strike, dodging, redirecting, and using the arena itself to his advantage. He moved with a flow that seemed almost unnatural for a human, yet it was grounded in his understanding of physics, momentum, and timing. He used his opponent's strength against her, subtly guiding her movements without striking aggressively, demonstrating that humans could prevail through wit and skill rather than raw power. The spectators watched in awe. They had expected a quick demonstration, a simple victory for Leora, yet the human's performance had transformed the duel into a spectacle of ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Cain had survived impossible strikes, countered seemingly unbeatable attacks, and maintained composure under extreme pressure. Aliens whispered among themselves, acknowledging that humans possessed qualities far beyond what they had imagined. Leora realized that the duel had become a test not just of skill, but of understanding. Cain's ability to adapt, anticipate, and respond with creativity had forced her to reconsider her assumptions about combat and strength. She had underestimated humans, assuming that lack of raw power equaled weakness. Cain had proven her wrong. His strength lay not in his muscles, but in his mind, his courage, and his ability to innovate under pressure. The duel reached its climax. Leora, determined to assert her skill, launched a complex series of attacks that combined speed, feints, and power. Kane moved with precision, evading, redirecting, and using the arena to his advantage. Then, he saw the opening he had been waiting for. Leora had grown slightly cautious, analyzing his movements rather than striking blindly. Kane seized the moment, using the magnetic panels to pivot and the low-gravity zones to shift angles. With perfect timing, he guided Leora's movement subtly, forcing her to overextend just enough to unbalance herself. He did not strike aggressively. He simply demonstrated control, showing that humans could triumph through strategy, timing, and intelligence, rather than brute force. The spectators erupted, their cheers echoing through the station. Kane had achieved what no one had expected. He had matched, and in some ways, surpassed, one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Leora stopped, breathing evenly, her eyes fixed on Kane. There was no anger, no frustration, only recognition. She had faced countless opponents, yet none had pushed her to think and adapt like this human. Kane had proven that humans were not only capable of surviving extreme challenges, but could excel through ingenuity, creativity, and perseverance. The crowd continued to cheer, applauding the extraordinary display of skill and intellect. Kane remained composed, acknowledging the audience with a calm nod. He had not fought for glory or recognition. He had fought to demonstrate what humans were capable of. His victory was not about domination, it was about proving that adaptability, intelligence, and courage could overcome assumptions, expectations, and even raw power. Leora approached Kane, her expression thoughtful. She extended a hand, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. Kane took it, their handshake firm but calm. In that simple action, a bond was formed not from equality and strength, but from mutual respect and recognition of human potential. Leora had learned an invaluable lesson. Humans were not weak, not fragile, and certainly not to be underestimated. The spectators slowly quieted, realizing the significance of what they had witnessed. Kane's victory was not just personal, it was a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Aliens who had once dismissed humans as fragile now saw them as capable, creative, and adaptable. The duel had transformed perceptions across the station, sparking conversations that would continue long after the event ended. Kane and Leora stood together for a moment, both catching their breath. Leora's mind was racing, considering the implications of what she had just experienced. Humans, she realized, could not be measured by conventional standards of strength or combat. Their potential lay in their creativity, intelligence, and ability to adapt in ways that defied expectation. Kane had proven that humans could face impossible odds, and not only survive but excel. The station officials approached, officially ending the duel. Kane stepped back, allowing Leora to receive the recognition she deserved. Yet the admiration in her eyes was unmistakable. She had faced a human and come away not just unbroken, but enlightened. Kane's calm demeanor, strategic mind, and adaptability had demonstrated that humans could be formidable opponents in ways that no species had fully appreciated. The spectators began to cheer again, louder this time, celebrating the extraordinary demonstration they had witnessed. Kane nodded to them, acknowledging their respect without arrogance. His victory was not about showing dominance, it was about proving the potential of humanity and inspiring others to see beyond assumptions and prejudices. Leora turned to the crowd, addressing them with a tone of admiration and recognition. Today, we have witnessed not just skill, but ingenuity, courage, and the remarkable adaptability of a human. Captain Kane has shown us that strength is not only measured in power, but in intelligence, creativity, and determination. The aliens listened intently, their respect for humans growing with every word. Kane smiled subtly, understanding the significance of the moment. He had not come to the duel seeking fame or glory. He had come to demonstrate that humans, though young in the galaxy, could achieve extraordinary things through perseverance, creativity, and courage. His performance had not only earned respect but had begun to change perceptions across species, planting seeds of admiration and understanding that would grow in the years to come. Leora and Kane left the arena together, walking side by side. Though their duel had ended, the lessons learned were lasting. Leora had gained a newfound respect for humans, recognizing their potential in ways she had never imagined. Kane had proven that being human was not a weakness, but a strength, one rooted in adaptability, intelligence, and unwavering determination. The duel became legendary. Stories spread throughout the Alliance about the human who had challenged a Xylar commander and survived. Not through brute strength, but through ingenuity and courage. Kane's victory was celebrated as a symbol of human potential, inspiring others to see beyond conventional measures of power and recognize the value of creativity, perseverance, and strategic thinking. Humans were no longer underestimated. Kane's performance had opened the eyes of countless species, demonstrating that humanity's greatest strength lay not in physical power, but in mind, courage, and the ability to adapt and thrive in any situation. The duel was remembered not just as a contest, but as a turning point, an enduring testament to what humans could achieve when challenged to their limits. Leora, reflecting on the duel, understood that the galaxy had underestimated humanity. She had seen firsthand that humans could think, adapt, and overcome in ways that were impossible to predict. Kane's calm, clever, and courageous performance had changed her perspective forever, and she became an advocate for recognizing the potential of human ingenuity and spirit in the interstellar community. As the sun set over the station, casting a warm glow across the docks and ships, Kane looked toward the horizon, contemplating the future. He knew the duel had been more than a test of skill. It had been a demonstration of what humans could accomplish when they refused to be limited by assumptions or fear. And with that understanding, he prepared for the adventures yet to come, confident that humanity's ingenuity would continue to shape the galaxy in remarkable ways.